that is not readily known by everyone, but is not something that they don't mind sharing. Okay, so don't write or tell your deep dark secret. Um, just find out something. Each person, you must have 3 persons write their names on your paper. Now follow the instructions carefully. I don't want you to write their names on your paper. Right? You don't write down their name. Allow them to write their name on your paper. And for each one of them, let them tell you something about them that isn't readily known. So just do that on the back of your program sheet for me right now. I'm going to ask you to do that. You have to make them right on your paper. You only need one thing about each person, but you need 3 persons. So you should have 3 different names on your paper. And each person that you speak to should write their name on it. Where's the paper? Miss. Please, your cooperation is critical to the success of this. All right? So please just move around to your colleagues and let them write their name on your paper and find out something about them. Like, for example, I have 2 brothers or a sister. I am 150 pounds plus. No, seriously, I am 150 pounds plus. Actually true. Wow. We having this is the kind of interaction we need. Right. 1 minute to go, please. 1 minute to go. You should have 3 names. You should have 3 names on your paper. You should have 3 names. Once you have 3 names, you can return to your space. All right. 30 seconds. It's both. You're exchanging information. $15 seconds. Everybody has 3. Fantastic. This looks good. Mr. Denton looks pleased with his paper. He's looking at it and smiling. All right, very good. Thank you so much. Miss Rowe, did you get some names on your paper? Did you write your name on somebody's paper? You wrote your name on somebody's paper? Wonderful, that's fine. It would be nice if you had somebody's name on your paper too. It would be nice, very nice. All right, don't worry about it. So I'm gonna ask you at this time, just to take your places, and we're gonna find out some of what we would have exchanged in terms of the information. However, I want to start with Dr. Wilson. Did I write something on your paper? I didn't write something. I wrote something on Mr. Denton's. Oh, it was Mr. Denton's paper. Mr. Denton, I'm gonna start with you, sir. I wrote something on your paper, yes. So I'm gonna ask that just an indicator to start. So you are the person who's going to start. So I'm gonna ask you to stand and just call the names that you have on your list, and you are to tell us just one thing about one of them. We won't go through everybody, just one. Tell us that thing that is not well known. Yeah, so on your paper, whose names do you have? Please stand when your name is called. I didn't hear that. Say again. Oh, she's quiet. Wow, that's a big secret. I'm gonna ask you to continue to stand, Doc, please. Okay, I'm not understanding the signal clearly, Stas. Oh, yes. Oh, very good. Yes.
Call all the names. All right. So Nadine Oliver.
Please stand. Once the name is called, you have to stand.
Says she's obsessed with books. Tanisha Powell.
Some persons will have other names. So that's fine. So just hand the mic to say what you know.
Okay.
And she will call it first.
Okay, I have Alwyn Denton, Nadine Oliver, Tanisha Powell. And Alwyn Denton says, I love girls.
So I have Zenova Palmer. She's not a lover of seafood. Okay, Miss Donna, she can't swim. And Mr. Douglas love being around old people. Jonathan Stad.
Okay, I have Suzanne. She says, I'm a Leo. It's August. Okay, Andre. I'm a very jovial person. And Jonathan, I am a fun person to be around.
So I have Miss Donna Taylor, who loves to bake. Tanisha Powell. Huh? Donna Winter, oh God. Sorry. Point of correction. I have Miss Donna Winter. She loves to bake. Yeah, man, she loves to bake. And Tanisha Powell, who is a child of God. Oh. And Nadine Oliver, who has a sister with the same name. Yeah.
All right, I have Alwyn Denton. I don't eat eggs. Rosemary Wilson. I do not eat chicken. And Tracia Williams. I have 4 sisters and 1 brother.
All right. I have Terry Ann Brown. She's a past student of Knox Neighborhood ECI. And I have Donna Wint Samuels. And she has 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And Nadine Oliver, she's obsessed with books.
Good morning, everyone. I know the instructions said just call the names and read just one, but I have to say all 3. So Tracia Ramona Nicole Williams, she's a mother of 3 boys. Yes, and you have Susanna Wallace, our nurse right here. My first time speaking with her this morning. And she speaks a little Korean and Japanese just by watching anime and those soap opera, those movies. And then Claudette Williams. She lived in Africa for 7 years. What? I know, right? Very surprised.
Hi, I'm Susanne Wallace, and I don't have a program, and I didn't ask one because I'm extremely introverted. So I'm going to sit right down now.
You have to keep standing. You have to stand. Yes. It's a part of the. Okay, so on my list, I have Denise Jackson. Please stand. I have Susanne Wallace, and I have Andre Lee. And Andre Lee, he is a big chef. Susanne, she hates Korean food. And, oh, you love it? Oh, great. And then Denise Jackson, she is outspoken. But hear this, she's private.
Okay, morning, everybody. I have Miss Claudette Williams. She doesn't like cooking at home. She prefers people to cook for her. And I have Miss Angelette Rowe. Miss Rowe? Angelette Rowe. She loves her family. And Susanne Wallace, she's allergic to cats.
Okay, I have a blank paper. I came in late. I wasn't sure of the instructions, so I just did what I was told to do by somebody else, not by the moderator.
Good morning, everyone. So I have Jonathan Douglas, Miss Elaine Bailey, and Andre Lee. Jonathan Douglas says that he's a low-key person. Miss Bailey is an introvert, and Mr. Lee is a critical thinker.
Thank you very much. Please remain standing for a second. Please look around the room and you know that there's one person still seated. Does anyone in here have her name on their paper? No. You don't have it on your paper. Nobody has it on there. And there's a reason for that. Yeah, she didn't give it to anybody. So You see how mix up happened. All right, guys. I'm gonna ask you to sit down for a second now. Just remember that everybody was standing, but we started with who? We started with Mr. Denton alone. Okay, so our theme today is safety, and we'll be looking at safety in terms of the acts of God, so to speak. Things like fire, earthquakes, and other types of threats. However, this activity, here's the kicker for the activity. Now, everybody, and I know this is a mature group, so it doesn't matter. Everybody on your paper that you have written to represents your intimate partners for the last 5 years. It's all supposition, so. But there are some very interesting things that you would have noticed. For example, Mr. Denton is a girl's man, right? All right. But we have also similar, we have same-sex names, don't it? Some ladies have ladies' name, and if we had more men, probably we'd have men having other men's name on it, right? Now, I wrote something on Mr. Denton's paper. I wrote that, hey, Mr. Denton is not just HIV positive. This is purely for the exercise. But he has now shared his infection with every other person in the room except Miss Daly, who abstained. There is one other person. There's one other person. I wrote something on your paper. Who was it? Miss Bailey. So Miss Bailey is the only other person who should have been seated because I wrote a C, meaning that she used contraceptives. She used a condom, to be more specific. So she was safe and Miss Daly was safe. But there are some... It's too late, Mr. Lee. But there are a number of things, there are a number of important points, and this is to do with our own health and safety as well. So there are diseases like this that you cannot simply look at anyone and say, you know, that person is a carrier, because we all look perfectly normal and there is no reason why anyone would think anything, right? So that's one. You can't tell by looking. It's not necessarily a relationship specific disease. So it doesn't mean that if you are not engaging in certain types of activities that you cannot be exposed to it. Do you understand? You did not, for example, have Mr. Denton's name, but he was impacting you. So when you're with someone, you're not only with that person, but you're also with everybody that they have been with before. So the scope of safety, we have to be so careful. We have to be so careful in how we conduct ourselves, and we have to be aware. So the knowledge is very important. So the transmission occurred in this group through social interaction. I mean, it was so pleasant. You knew something about somebody, you never know that person was special and so forth, right? But it turns out that that was a bad relationship as far as your health was concerned. So I hope that the message has gone through. Yeah? Say again?
I'm saying that's a lesson indeed.
Yes. So there are some takeaways from that. Just to remind you, so we have said you can't tell by looking, so you can't just see somebody and judge. It's not necessarily, and none of these things are necessarily relationship specific. So we cannot peg it as, you know, it's that group or that particular group. All of us are exposed to, and it's not necessarily who you're with now, but it's who that person has been with as well. So we really have to be careful. And the kicker was that there are two ways to keep safe: one from abstinence, and the other through using what is available in terms of protective devices and so forth. All right, so thank you so much for cooperating. It is a little bit somber, when you think about it, but it is necessary for us to be aware and so we can protect ourselves. Now that is looking on the social side of things. So we're going to be moving more into the practical side of things. And I'm going to give you a brief break so that you can sort of digest this. And we're going to be doing a little shift on our program. On our program, we have the fire personnel who's supposed to deal with fire safety. We're going to move up the earthquake hazards presentation, and we'll begin that in another 4 or so minutes. Our presenter is here and is about to we just want to give him some time to put his device online, and so we can start. So we break now and we take 4 minutes and then we return. It is 10 a.m. now. We resume at 10:04. presenter. Oh, wonderful. Lovely. So ladies and gentlemen, it seems we have a confluence here of our presenters. I think our earthquake presenter has yielded the floor to our presenter for fire safety. So could you just put your hands together and let's make welcome our representative from the fire department. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we have with us this morning Sergeant Bramwell representing the fire department, and he's going to walk us through our fire safety presentation. I trust you will give him your full attention, and we know time is of the essence. So without further ado, let me turn over to Sergeant Bram.
Hi, morning, everyone. I trust you're all doing well. All right, so if you hear one of your coworkers come back and say, I had an encounter with a fireman on the road who did not want to yield, is me. All right? Anyway, we're here on this blessed morning to look at fire safety. As I said, my name is Karen Bramwell, Sergeant, Fire Brigade, Fire Prevention Section, Mandeville Fire Station. As we think about fire safety, there are many things that can come to mind. But if we are thinking of fire and safety, then we must understand both concepts, not true? What's fire and what's safety? In your opinion, what's a fire? Something burning. A blaze? Any other? All right, so in the interest of time, one definition is that fire is a rapid chemical reaction that gives off heat and light and other byproducts of combustion. And with that said, it means that there are elements that are necessary for a fire to start. And some of these elements there are actually three, which is, as he said, oxygen, then there's fluid, fuel, and heat. Oxygen, fuel, and heat. And all three of these elements are present in this room right now, but we don't have a fire going. Why is that so? It has to be? Ignition? No. Initiation?
There's no combustion. There's no combustion.
Not necessarily. All that happens is that they are not in their correct proportion. Because everything that can burn will burn at the right temperature. So all that happens is that there isn't adequate heat to ignite any of the fuel that is in here. Because the clothes you're wearing, the chairs, you yourself, I myself, the building material, all of this is fuel. So when we say fuel, we're not just talking about kerosene, petrol, diesel, and all of these things. We're talking about any and everything that can burn, right? So all that happens is that the heat source is not adequate to ignite the fuel that is there. So you don't need a naked light to start a fire. Are you understanding? For example, in the Stony Hill area, in the hot summer, you don't have a naked light, but the heat, the type of stones, flint stones, produce sufficient heat to ignite the dry grass. So you don't have to have a naked light or a spark or anything to start a fire. Are we understanding? So before anything can burn, it has to vaporize. And that process is called pyrolysis, a chemical breakdown of a substance caused by heat. So even when you strike a matchstick, if you look carefully at the matchstick, you realize that the flame is not directly on the matchstick because the matchstick has to vaporize and then the vapors burn. The fuel in your car has to vaporize before the engine can utilize it. That's it. Because even though you shake your cooking gas cylinder, you'll hear liquid in it, but you never see liquid coming out. Understand? So even that has to vaporize to get to the burner so it can burn. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why even with regards to your gas tank, it's not recommended that you top it off. And you see some taximen shaking the life out of the poor car, trying to get all the gas they can into it. The gas cylinder needs expanding space. Just like your cooking gas cylinder. A lot of times there are dealers who don't put adequate in there, but the truth is the cylinder should not be filled to capacity. There's a space that must be left called the ullage, which is the space that the gas uses to vaporize. And if that space is taken up, all that will happen is that the cylinder will explode because it needs space to expand. Likewise, it is best to purchase petrol early morning or late evening because you get more petrol. Because in the day when it is hot, you get more vapor than liquid. If you ever notice that whenever you have petrol in a bottle, if the time heats up, it expands. The time cool down, it contracts. So when you buy petrol in the hot day, you get less fuel because you get more vapor. Because the petrol expands when it is hot. Understand? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Right? But when you think about safety, sometimes we overlook so many things. So one of the things that we have to learn to do is to identify hazards. Now, what do you say a hazard is? Something that has potential to cause harm. So a hazard is any material, act, or condition, as he says, with the potential to cause harm. Right? So, for example, depending on how these things are on the floor, they can be a trip hazard. Based on how the wires are run on the floor, those can be a trip hazard as well. Based on how the stairs are built, they can be a hazard as well. Do you know that your feet measure the rise of each step? And if one is out, you're going to stub your toe on it. Because as you're climbing the stairs, your feet, your brain and your feet automatically measure how high it's supposed to go each time. So if you're climbing up a stairs and you're going nice and then you stub your toe, more than likely that riser is higher than the others. And that's a hazard. Right? Do you know it is always safer to walk on one side of the stairs than to walk broadside of the stairs? And there's a reason why it says use handrail. Because walking down the stairs with the full breath taken up, what if somebody needs to come up? Because even in an emergency, when you're evacuating, irrespective of the fact that everyone wants to get out, there might be someone with a disability on the upper floor. And the person is to assist that person is downstairs. Now you're utilizing the entire width of the stairs going down. How does that person come out to assist the person who needs help? So sometimes we overlook some simple things, right? How do we keep our keys at home? We just reach home, we're tired, and we just drop them on the land anywhere they want to. Do we have specific places that we keep our keys? Because guess what? In the dead of night, when you wake up, you must know where your key is. You're supposed to can keep your eyes closed and reach your key. Understand what I'm saying? Likewise, you must be able to find your way out of your house in the dark without stumbling over furniture. So like I normally say to people, there are times in the night when I wake up and sleep so sweet, I don't want to jump out of my eyes. So I just keep my eye closed and go bathroom. That ever happened to you? Yes, man. You know, I really enjoy sleeping, but you have to urinate. And your bladder wake you up and say, I need to empty. But you don't want the seat to go, so you keep your eyes closed and just find a way to the bathroom. Just as how you do that, in an emergency, you must be able to find a way outside of the house without stumbling over furniture, which means that you must know the layout of your house. Because in a real fire emergency, don't think that there's going to be light for you to find your way through. And if it is you're bumping and stumbling over furniture, if you are on the second floor, chances are you can fall over the stairs and drop downstairs. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can bump into something that has become loose and it drop down on you. So you must be able to find your way out of your house in the dark without stumbling over furniture. The way we use extension cords, we run them under the rug, run them behind the city and all of those things, not safe. And what is it that we use in our extension cords? Do we use our washing machine with an extension cord? No. So all heavy duty equipment should be plugged directly into the wall or in a proper surge protector. All right? Excuse me 1 minute. All right, hang on. Because when you use the extension cord, most of the extension cords are not designed to supply the amount of current or electricity that the machine or appliance demands. And so you find the extension cord getting warm. What happens over time is that the insulation becomes crystallized, right? And you utilizing it over a period of time can cause a fire, short circuit, excuse me. Two nursing homes. I'm gonna send Meeks and Alan. Yeah, so I send them. All right. Yeah, man. Sorry about that. All right, so as I was saying, when you use the extension cord, many times you won't even take note of it because the washing machine is working. Whatever appliance you're using is working. And that is what causes house fires many times. Because the machine is working, so I'm good. You're not taking note that the insulation is heating and melting away from the wire. And over a period of time, when it melts away, then you have both positive and negative coming together, electrical short circuit. Understanding what I'm saying? And if you live in an older house, what is recommended is that you get a certified electrician to check it at least every 5 years. And one of the reasons why I say certified electrician, because many times the type and size of wire based on research is recommended to be changed. And if this electrician is not certified, chances are you might not know that. Many times we have a little man who know electrical work. I'm cheaper. So I just call him and say, come do a thing for me. You understand what I'm saying? But sometimes the cheapest work out to be the dearest. All right? One of the next things I want to consider is how many of us even know the number for the fire station? If you should have an emergency now that requires firefighters, how do you contact us? You know what's strange as I said that? We're at Sutherland Global doing an inspection yesterday. And the supervisor who was walking around with us, he said he had an emergency. I think Tigo Bay. And he called 110, which is up and call XYZ. They couldn't put him through. Now imagine that you have a real emergency. And many times we have emergencies, we're going to a temporary state of insanity. And you need help, and you're going to be told to hang up and call another number. That was before smartphones. So smartphones make stupid people. Because the phones get smart and we get stupid. You see what I'm saying? You used to know numbers. Nobody knows number anymore. If the phone never locked down, everybody dead. The driver is that you left a phone, you're almost crashing in order trying to turn to go back for the phone. That's what we have become, which is sad. Because it's human brain that put the technology together to make the phone. But now we're allowing the phone to take the position of our brains. Not good, not true. Smartphones make stupid people. Right? And so it is always best to create an emergency contact list, whether for work or for home. And you mount that contact list at strategic points at home or at work. So when you need the number, it is right there. You don't have to go scroll through the phone to find it, because I can tell you when you have an emergency and looking for that number, you'll not find it. Just scroll past it 100 times. Understand what I'm saying? So always put things in place before the emergency. 962-2588 for Mandeville. 2588 for Mandeville. And 964-2444 for Christiana. Nine 2444. And I can guarantee you when you call that number, usually it don't ring more than once, but twice maximum before you get an answer. 110-112-119 will ring and ring and ring and ring before you get an answer. And when they do answer you, if you call 110, you're going to hear you have reached an emergency line for fire and ambulance. For fire, press 1. For ambulance, press 2. I don't want to hear that I'm having an emergency. You see what I'm saying? And the other thing is that firefighters are usually more familiar with the area. So if I say Comfort Hall, then you know Comfort Hall down the road, not true? And it's a calling from the one down in Mile Gully, go beyond, right? And that's why you have to be specific with your address, because there are a number of places in Manchester that is duplicated via name. You understand? So always be able to give specific address. Don't just call and say, I have a fire at my house and hang up my phone. Where your house there? You understand what I'm saying? Because nobody, or currently, we don't have something to say you're calling from X point. So you have to be able to give specific address. Give landmarks. Understand? All right. So on the same topic of home safety. Brownstown St. Anne. I have the thing there right there. But we have a pamphlet that has all the numbers on it. All right. But when you're from St. Anne? I'm from Brownstown, you know. But when you think of safety, many times we overlook safety and we think more about security. You know, no thief coming in the house, so we grill the entire house. What happens when a fire starts? All your windows grill, you have some round shine lock on the door and the grill at your door. You remember we buy the round shine lock because it's strong. It's too strong. And so in an emergency, when you are trying to open that, guess what? You have two of them. You don't realize it's the wrong key pushing that one. But it fits in there. So you say it must be the right key. Key breaks. What do? You see what I'm saying? And so what we recommend is that even in grilling, window grills, you make at least one in each room that can swing open. Nobody looking from outside will know. In an emergency, you just open it and go through. Even if you have to break out the window. Understand what I'm saying? Now, like I mentioned, the round shine locks, they are for commercial use, not for residential use. When those locks are locked, nobody's supposed to be inside. Because the keys are fragile and the locks are strong. And the hasp, that part there, so that goes over the grill, is very short. So even when we get there, it's easier to cut the grill than to cut the lock. Understand what I'm saying? So they are for commercial use, not for residential use. All right? How many of us have ever thought of investing in a fire extinguisher or smoke detector? All right, so you have thought of it. Have you invested in it? So you have one at home? Smoke detector, fire extinguisher? Very good. Because when you do that, you're actually creating a mini fire station at home. So your smoke detector will alert you even if you're sleeping. And when you test it, it's very loud, not true? Have you tested your smoke detector? Smoke detectors are loud and annoying. All right? So even if you're in a dead sleep, you're supposed to wake up when that goes off. All right? And when that goes off, if need be, then you can get your extinguisher, cool down the fire, and get out. You might not be able to extinguish the fire because fire extinguishers are not to extinguish big fires. They are for small fires. Right? So even if you wake up and the rest of the house except your room is on fire, what you want to do is to try to create an escape route with your extinguisher. And we recommend that smoke detectors be in all sleeping areas and in passageways. Yes, just not at the windscreen. We'll touch on it. All right. So she's asking if there are different types of extinguisher for different types of fire. Yes, there is. All right. So at home, we want to ensure we have our keys in the right place, utilizing right surge protectors and no extension cords for heavy duty appliances. We want to have our emergency contact list. I want to ensure that our grilling is not making our house into a prison. Because criminals will get you whichever way, even in church. Understand? Now, on the issue of fire extinguisher, Sir Bonner, you have one close by? So, like I'm saying, fire extinguishers are first aid firefighting equipment. Now, when you think about first aid in relevance to health, it's an initial treatment given to a casualty before the arrival of the professionals, the doctors. And so likewise, for a fire extinguisher, it is what you use to assist yourself before the fire brigade arrives. All right? This particular one is a carbon dioxide extinguisher. All right? Now, one of the easiest ways to identify a carbon dioxide extinguisher is by the nozzle. See how big the nozzle is? Not all of them are this size. This is a 10-pounder. The 5-pound one is smaller. The nozzle is still bigger than the 5-pound ABC. Do you have one of the ABC close by, just to, for them to see the difference? All right. The other thing is that the CO2 has no gauge on it. On the ABC dry chemical powder extinguisher, there's a gauge that helps to tell you the condition of the extinguisher, right? And so if you want to know if it is in good condition, then you would check the gauge. So see the gauge on this one? All right. So 10-pound ABC, 10-pound CO2. See how the cylinder size is different? This is compressed carbon dioxide. This is pressurized dry chemical powder. But actually, it's not pressurized until you push down on the operating lever. So there's a small canister of nitrogen inside that when you pierce it, it ruptures, creates a chemical reaction that forces the contents out. All right? So this is called a dry chemical powder extinguisher, but it's also referred to as an ABC extinguisher. So as she was talking about different types of fire, fires are placed in classes A, B, C, D, K, or F. It's a one-time use, but it can be recharged. Yeah, the CO2 one, you can use it repeatedly until all the contents is finished. So this one, similar to your cooking gas cylinder, you check it by the weight. And similar to your cooking gas cylinder, you can use it repeatedly until the contents is finished, right? So what is good is that you should know the weight of the one that you have, if it's a CO2 one you have. So, you know, if you have used it a couple of times, you can estimate how much you still have left in there before you have to service it again, all right? But the dry chemical powder one, after I have used it, so even if I squeeze out a little, within about 5 minutes, the pressure is going to drop below where I can use it again. All right. But notwithstanding, you can get it recharged. See, a service provider will come, open it, take out the thingy and repressurize it. All right. But like I'm saying, service providers do that. So they have machines to connect it to. Where? Also, there are different ones. There was one in Mandel, but he locked down. But there's a Gentleman Comprehensive Fire Services. There's Anchor Supplies. There are a couple of them. But I know for comprehensive, he comes to Mandeville or Manchester on a weekly basis. I can give you his number, 361-5454. So he both sells and service. 361-5454. His name is Mr. Franklin. So A-class fires, regular combustible material that come from nature. Wood, paper, cloth, dry leaves, anything from nature, A-class. B-class, flammable liquids, liquefiable solids. What comes to mind? Petrol. When it's a gas, there are so many things in the gas category. You know? So you have petrol, diesel, thinner, cooking oil, kerosene, wax, tar, PVC. All of those come under B class. Hold on. Say that again. Yes, thinner. Go ahead now. Why? The reason why they don't put it in A class, because A class fires, whenever they burn, the remnants is charcoal or ashes. And then because this is liquid also, so it's flammable liquids, liquefiable solids. All right. So C class, for the American standard, C class would be referred to as electrical fires. Jamaica operates from the English standard, which does not recognize electrical fires as such. Because the truth is, once you shut off electricity, whatever is burning falls into one of the other classes. So if the conduit up there starts to burn and I shut off the electricity, what kind of fire is it now? B. Because it is no liquefiable solid, B class, conduit. You understand? PVC. When it burns, it becomes a liquid. That's why I said B class is flammable liquids or liquefiable solids. So that's why you end up with PVC and plastic and wax and tar. Understand? All right. So C class is actually liquefiable gases and flammable gases. So for example, you know that when you compress your cooking gas, you get liquid. So it's a liquefiable gas. But when it comes into regular atmosphere, it is vapor. Understand? So like your propane, butane, methane, and all those comes under C class. All right? And D class are flammable metals. Potassium, magnesium, all of those. So chemistry lab, physics lab, most times if you have a fire, it would probably, depending on where it is, fall into the D class. Bauxite refineries, because they use these metals in the breakdown of bauxite into alumina. All right. And then you have a K or F class, which is for saturated or unsaturated fat fires, mostly in commercial kitchens. The reason for this is most commercial kitchens don't use the regular cooking oil that we use at home. They'll use lard. You know what that is? Pork fat. And that tends to heat to a higher temperature than regular cooking oil. So that's why a KFC chicken can so crispy, but they don't taste burnt. Your fries, very crispy, but not burnt. And because there's no burnt taste, it is allowed to use up to 90 days before it is discarded. But you know what's worse? Ladies, When that is done with, it is one of the products in your facial makeup. And that's why makeup is not healthy, because it clogs your pores. So women who use makeup for a prolonged period, after a while, they can't do it without it because holes start dropping out in their skin. Understand? So go healthy. All right, so the CO2 is a BC extinguisher. So I told you what B class fires are, and I told you what C class fires are. So this is effective on class B and C fires. And one of the reasons for that, it is better for confined spaces. So it's more effective within an enclosed area. Because what it does, it displaces oxygen. So if you use it outside, it will not be very effective because there's so much oxygen outside. Understand? It will still stand a chance of putting out the fire, but you'll have to use more. All right? And then the operational procedure. So you do have, outside of these two, you have compressed water extinguisher, you have a D-class extinguisher, and you have the K-class extinguisher. The K-class one, as I said, for commercial kitchen fires, is referred to as a wet chemical. So whereas this is a dry chemical, the one for the commercial kitchen is in a shine cylinder, not red, and this is referred to as a wet chemical, because what it does, when you use it, it forms a blanket over the burning material and cools it down while also blocking the oxygen. So remember, we said that in order for a fire to start, we need oxygen, fuel, and heat. So the same way, in order to extinguish a fire, you remove any one of the three. Either remove the oxygen, remove the heat, or remove the fuel. Understand? Right. But the operational procedure for all of them is almost one and the same. Metal fire. Yes. The ABC can be used. It's quite similar. But once you have a metal fire, one of the key things to keep in mind is never to put water on it. Which should tell all of us that not every fire can be extinguished with water. Because if you have a fire that has electrically charged equipment, you don't want to put water on it either. Because you know water is a conductor of electricity. All right? So don't see fire and just decide to put some water on it. You can make it worse. The D-class fire, if you put water on it, explosion. Similar to the B-class fire, flammable liquids, say a hot oil, you're frying your entire pot, catch a fire, please don't put water on it. Have you ever been frying something and probably you took up a wet fork or your hand wet and water drop off of it into the pot and start propping up? Can you imagine if the oil is at the temperature which is now blazing? Very good question. Remember we said oxygen, fuel, and heat? All you have to do is to cover the pot because you're then blocking the oxygen. You can also throw some flour or baking soda in there and it will go out. So you can cover it with a wet dish towel or with the pot cover and you block the oxygen. That's what I'm saying, you know, when you understand the enemy, you don't have to be afraid of the enemy. Understand? Because you know what to do to get them down. All right? So in operating it, either of them is quite simple. There's an acronym called PASS. Pull. What you pull is the spin right here. Can everybody see it? So you pull out the spin. So you're going to hold it like this. This yellow latch is just there to prevent it from falling out accidentally. So you just pull hard enough on this and it comes out. Then you aim, not at the blaze, not at the smoke, but at the base of the fire. Okay. And you squeeze down on the operating lever. So this is the operating lever. What I'm holding is a carrying handle. All right? Do not carry it on the operating lever, you'll damage it. In trying to pull out the pin, don't be panicking and hold the carrying handle and the operating lever together. The pin will not come out. So release the operating lever and pull out the pin. All right? So pull, aim, squeeze, and you sweep side to side to cover the entire base of the fire. All right? Quite simple, right? So what we recommend is that each point where there's an extinguisher mounted, you put up the operational procedure. All right? So, like I said, with this one, which is a CO2 one, I'm going to squeeze out some of this. CSRB. You simple. Pull. In. My friend Bob is on fire. See that? There's nothing to feel, right? If I use the ABC one, all you do is feel with dust and powder, your respiratory tract will be irritated and all. Especially if you have sinusitis or some other respiratory illness. Right? So, like I said, if I had used the ABC, the room would be filled with powder. And you'll have to evacuate. And that's one of the reasons why this one is recommended for confined spaces as well. So even if you're cooking and you have one of this, because outside of the cake class, this is the other one that I recommend for kitchens. So if you're cooking and your pot catch on fire, and you're timid to put the cover on it, you just use this, extinguish the fire, your food can still be had. All right? And a lot of people become skeptical when I say that. But the truth is that whenever you're drinking a soda, you're simply drinking a flavored extinguisher. Because the same contents that is in this is what they put in the juice, what is called a carbonated juice. So if when you go to the juice dispenser, maybe at KFC or Burger King, behind the juice dispenser are two bigger cylinders than this of carbon dioxide. So yes, man. So you're getting some syrup mixed with some extinguisher. And it gives you that tingle on your tongue, but I don't like it, not true? You drink it and say, ah. But it softens your bone. It actually results in osteoporosis. Yeah, man, and sometimes so much you need to burn your nose. You understand? It's not good for you. I remember when I was young and I used to go KFC. Man, that was a thing. You can get no free cup of juice. You go in and buy 2 pieces of chicken and you sit down and eat chicken very slow and you go to the juice dispenser many times. You understand? But as you grow older, you get wiser. So soft drinks is not good for you. It's actually one of the reasons it's called soft drinks, it softens the bone because it depletes the calcium in your bones. So at the long term, osteoporosis. Understand? So everybody knows how to use the extinguisher. Pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. Now, if you're here, and Mr. Bonner should have already invested in his expensive fire alarm system and you hear the alarm go off, what would be your next move? Where would you go? Who knows where the assembly point is? All right, so we are familiar with which route would you take? Very good answer. Depends on where the fire is coming from. Even though that route might be the fastest to get out of the building, what if the fire is in that building next to you? So you take the quickest route that is away from the hazard. All right? The quickest route that is away from the hazard. And even though it might seem dumb, everybody don't bombard the step one time. We try to file down. Remember we said we single line? Because somebody might need to rush upstairs to assist somebody. Which means that we must be familiar with our co-workers. They might love work on the sides that even though they have a broken leg, they're going to still come work. Now somebody should be assigned to assist that person. All right? So the truth is, you would also have fire wardens assigned. And these fire wardens are the persons who would take charge in an emergency situation, do a quick check. They are the persons who give instructions. Because guess what? Even though we are familiar with where the assembly point is, it can be that the assembly point is compromised, you know. Now, if you just decide to run out to the usual assembly point, you're running right into hazard. And that's why we say in evacuating females mostly, there are some crazy males who scream, but no screaming, no screaming, and as quiet as possible because there might be some information that is being given. And so you'll need to hear it. And that's why we say in evacuating, you don't run, but you walk briskly. Because in running, you can trip. You understand? And if there are many people moving and you trip, guess what's going to happen? There's stampede. You understand? And like he's saying, you're going to create hazards and injuries that the emergency itself would not have caused.
Because there is no step. You are going that side of your own risk. There is no road there.
And that's why you must become familiar with all your evacuation routes and know which one is safer. Notwithstanding, in an emergency, you might need to take a route that is not 100% safe, but it can get you away from the hazard. Understand? So you familiarize yourself. So whichever building you're in or location you're at on the premises, you know how to get to a safe area. And always remember that in your safe area, you should be free of high tension wires and falling objects. All right? Because you don't want to be in a safe area and all of a sudden the breeze starts to blow hard and the wires start to arc. Understand? Or a tree possibly fall on you, or a building collapse and impacts you. Understand? So it should be at a safe distance from all falling objects. All right? So let's say that you discover the outbreak of fire or the emergency. So the first thing you want to do is to raise an alarm. And these are the steps for the fire drill. So the first step is to raise an alarm. Then you evacuate. And like we're saying, you evacuate in an orderly fashion. All right? You evacuate, you go to the assembly point. So alarm, evacuate, assemble. When you get to the assembly point, let's say that you have different departments. It would be good to stand in your respective departments. And then somebody is assigned for that department to do a head count or a roll call. And I say head count or a roll call because guess what? My friend down there said just get our iPhone 15 Pro Max. What's her name? Our sweetheart just buying a long time. Today our birthday and she decided to come and work. But she went to the bathroom and left it on her desk. Hear the alarm and run out. At the assembly point, she remembers, oh my Lord, my iPhone. No, so smoker kicked through the window. She's standing there. You think when you call her name, she's going to hear? Her mind is on her iPhone. But even worse, you get a partner draw and get to lodge at a bank. Ah! Run left the money in the handbag. You are at the assembly point and you remember your $500,000 inside. But the point is, never enter or re-enter a burning building. I know it is going to be hard. But the truth is, it might take some time to reacquire the money. Visa 1, 2. You just go embassy, explain, get your reports and whatever, and you can get back a visa. But what happens when you are severely burned or if you die? Do you know that unless you do plastic surgery, a fire burn is permanent? So especially the females who normally take them pics and put them up on Facebook and on them status and on them DP and all of these things. How much more picture you going to put up? And guess what? I want to bossy man, I did fine. Now your face burn up. Gone. See what I'm saying? So we really have to take into consideration our actions. Some years ago, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, you remember that fire at Villa Road where there was an explosion and 3 people got seriously injured? The man who got the most severe injury is because he was going back inside. You see, when the explosion took place, he was airborne. I think he landed maybe about 20 feet away from the doorway. But a man who was maybe about my gentleman there complexion, he was white like a shirt. A lot of times, we only think about fire. But you see, when the real thing comes, it's a different thing. And fire is no respecter of persons. Rich, poor, blind, 20/20 vision or otherwise. It will destroy. So let us not be like a Nancy who went out into the bush and saw fire and thought it was so pretty and decided to invite fire home. When fire got there, it burned down his house. You understand what I'm saying? So never think like what you see in the movies where they have one extinguisher put out on a whole building of fire and you have a whole lot of illumination where you can see and move. No. In most fires, it is dark and filled with smoke. And one of the reasons why we don't recommend you going back to the building, one of the #1 byproducts of fire is carbon monoxide. Once your lungs is exposed to carbon monoxide, it can no longer absorb oxygen. So even though there might be some oxygen, your lungs have no use for it. Because the carbon monoxide block the oxygen receptors. It's like you're driving behind one of them old diesel truck where you spit out smoke. And you say, man, pull over now. And you put up a window and you still come through the vent. And you're suffocating. Mouth, breathing through your mouth. Where does the oxygen go still? Basically, remember that there's a thing, I don't remember the correct name for it, that hangs at the back of your throat that comes from your nostril. And that's why when your nose is blocked, you can breathe through your mouth, but it still goes through your lungs. You understand? And that's why you can't survive without your lungs. That's it. And so you're going to go into shock. Understand? And remember, if your brain is deprived of oxygen for 3 minutes, irreversible brain damage. So you probably survive, but you turn cabbage. See what I'm saying? So that's why we don't recommend you re-entering the building. So discover an emergency, alarm, evacuate, assemble, roll call, and never ever re-enter the building until whoever is in charge gives you the all clear signal. So that's the final step, all clear signal, right? Because a proper assessment has to be made to say, okay, the building is safe for reoccupancy. All right? I think I've said enough. Any questions?
My colleague was saying that it must be very difficult for, in case of a fire and your child is inside, that you will remain outside and not attempt to rescue. So she was saying that she would rather die with the child than stay outside, because at the end of it all, how can you live with yourself after that? So
that's an important point. And guess what? That's a God aspect in you. Christ could not have sat in heaven and watched us just die. And so he came and he took death for us. And so many times, that's why, as a firefighter, I will not say to a mother, just stand up outside and watch the house burn and the child in there. I will not say that. Because truth is, they say that a mother's love is the strongest, don't they? And as a father, I would do my best, even though I have some training, but I'd do my best to get my child out of the house. You know, a story is told of a mother who was home with her son, lived near a lake, and there was a crocodile in the lake. The child went out one day and was playing, and the mother from the kitchen was able to see the child, and the child went down to the edge of the lake, and he was there playing. As she looked in the water, she saw something crossing, heading toward the child. She started to cry out, but the child was too far to hear. She dashed out of the house, dashed down to the lakeside. As she grabbed the hand, the alligator grabbed the next one. And there was a tussle. And of course, there was screaming. Luckily, there was a neighbor who had a gun and came and shot the crocodile. In the hospital, people came and, they were talking to the child and, may I see the wound? And he showed them the crocodile one. He said, but you should see the one my mother's hand made, because her love would not let me go. So even when a mother's love sometimes causes injury, it is still love. You see what I'm saying? And so from my standpoint as a firefighter, I don't try to get between that and say to you, stand up outside and watch a picnic dead. Because you're going to try to do your best to save your child's life. But all I ask is that you do a quick assessment. Have a plan in your head. And that's why knowing your house is very, very important. So you know that if I dash in through the front door, based on where the fire is, if that becomes blocked, what is going to be my next move? You understand what I'm saying? Is there an alternate route I can take? Is there something I can grab that can help to put out the fire for us to get back out? Don't just run in without a plan. Understand? And guess what? Plans are not made spontaneously. So think about it. And that's why even the giving of this information now is important. Because if I came and I gave you a test paper and say, fill out these and answer these questions, you'll not be able to. But with the information I've given you now, there are questions you could answer, not true? That's why we go to school and study, not true? So that we can be prepared. So the information that we get, let us not just have it, but let us utilize it. So we leave here today, we're going to create an emergency contact list. We're going to see how best we can invest in our fire extinguisher and our smoke detector. We're going to ensure that we don't have our extension cords on heavy duty appliances. And one that I did not mention, very, very important, cooking gas. Do not have your cooking gas under the cupboard with a hole through the side with the hose going through the stove, to the stove. Your cooking gas cylinder needs ventilation. So don't have it locked under the cupboard, because if there's a leak, you won't know. You understand? And nothing over 30 pounds should be inside. Once it is a 100-pound cylinder, it should be outside and connected to your stove via copper tubing. And on that copper tubing, you need to have a lock-off valve inside, close to the stove. So if a fire starts, you don't have to go outside to the cylinder to lock it off. You just turn off the lock-off valve. Understand? Because naturally, cooking gas have no scent. It has no color. Understand? So you go home, you probably not even smell it. But if you do smell it, don't turn on the light switch. Don't answer your cell phone. Because those are potent enough to ignite it, depending on how rich the mixture is. So the first thing you want to do is open windows and doors. Lock off the regulator or disconnect it. The only thing is that you probably want to get some soap water and run it along the line first on the regulator to see where the leak is coming from before you turn it off. Because that's how you find where the leak is. So when you run the soap water on it wherever the bubbles appear, That's where the leak is.
What kind of assessment do you guys do at like gas stations? Because I realized that since I started driving, I realized that the signs say we're supposed to turn the ignition off and we're not to use our cell phone, but that's not happening.
It's
So
up to
what
the
are
Americans.
the policies that are put in place? Because I'm thinking if the gas attendants, I think that's how you address them, know of the policies, because everybody's on their phone and everybody keeps their engine on, because even sometime when I turn mine off, you know, it's gonna take a time to start the car, people are behind me blowing, and I'm like, isn't that what we're supposed to do? So what are the assessments that the fire department does? Do you guys do regular checkups at those places?
All right. So for service stations, there are recommendations and requirements. The same thing I just mentioned. The signs must be there. Turn off engine, no use of cell phone, no naked light, right? Because the vapor from the petrol is very, very dangerous, right? And so the heat from the engine, the static electricity from the engine, the static electricity from your cell phone, that's why it is there, no use of cell phone, is potent enough to ignite the fumes. You remember Fesco? You had seen Fesco? You remember somebody was there just on the cell phone sitting on him when gas a leak out? It is supposed, don't say I say. It is supposed that is that red car that drove onto the pump with a hot engine with the petrol running underneath it. Plus they were jump starting a vehicle. So that spark and that static is likely to have caused the fire. Notice I said likely, I never said that is what caused it. Is likely to have been what caused the fire. All right? But the regulations are there. I was doing an inspection at a gas pump some time ago, and a guy drove on to the pump with his cigarette. And when I pointed out to him that he should not be doing that, he took the last round through the window. And when the gas was finished pumping and he was going to go, he lighted the other one on the pump. No, I was in uniform and I pointed out to him. But we are in a very, I don't even know how to describe this place, indisciplined culture. That's the point. They are not to be served. We can do without your $5,000 even if you're buying so much. Because the truth is $5,000 cannot rebuild the station. $5,000 cannot buy my life and safety. So you're not complying with the standards, I will not serve you. And if you fail to come off the pump, call the police and they recommend and take off the vehicle. So we do training with the gas station attendants. We do inspections and all of that. Because truth is, even if you are self-serving, do you know why gas stations are primarily made of metal? It's not so you don't burn down. It's so that you can de-energize your static charge before you start pumping.
As far as
Yeah, H-beams.
But I have a question. The car, you see, in regards to the car and the ignition being off, the ignition itself lights the gas when you're driving. So isn't it like you're driving a bomb already?
Yeah, it's called an internal combustion engine.
So what I'm thinking is, if you even the only way a fire can start at a gas station with an ignition being on, if there is a gas spill.
The fumes from filling the tank.
External.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where the static charge comes in now, because even the gas station attendant need to de-energize themselves before they start pumping. So it's not like they have to do it for every vehicle, but over a period of time, they need to de-energize again. Right? There are a couple of videos that you can find online, people self-serving, and especially if you're fidgeting, you come out of your car and they say, once you have exited your car to put petrol in your vehicle, don't re-enter the vehicle. because you're then taking back static charge from the vehicle to yourself. And you know that when you're pumping the gas, the fumes are coming up. The static charge coming from your hand can ignite the fumes. Understand? So that is why it is required that you de-energize before you pump. Understand? Question is answered? All right. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, okay, my question is, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm not hearing anybody. Okay, my question is that first I would like to commend this really this presentation and all those who are in charge of it, and I'm really impressed with I think he's a Knox student, and he must be a Knox student that is coming from Knox Community College with this excellent presentation. So I just want to, and definitely I'm going to invite him to my church because he's really very good. And I just want to ask you for the number that you gave us for the comprehensive fire. What was that number?
Answer delayed. But the number for its comprehensive fire service, the gentleman's name is Mr. Franklin. It's 361-5454. So that's 361-5454. All right. Franklin. 361-5454. And the number for the fire stations, Mandeville and Christiana. So Mandeville, 962-2588. That's 962-2588. And Christiana, 964-2444. That's 964-2444. All right. Any other questions? All right. So we made mention of de-energizing. You actually de-energize upon exiting the car. So the metal framework of the service station, once you touch it, is like you're grounding yourself. So you know that houses have a grounding wire. And without that ground wire, your house is going to get an oversupply of current because there's nothing returning to the earth, right? So upon exiting the car, you simply touch the metal framework of the service station to de-energize your static charge. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Because you know that, for example, even your computer can get damaged with static charge, right? So if you're wearing a watch or something like that, it's recommend that you take it off unless it's a non-static watch that you're using, because that can short circuit your motherboard and so forth. Even the memory can get damaged by touching it with static charge. Because surely, you know your bodies are running off electricity, right? So your brain runs off electricity and so forth. So that static charge is potent enough to ignite the fumes that comes from the gas tank while the fuel is going in, right?
Any specific, thank you so much for your presentation. Any specific advice as it relates to lightning strike? Preparing our workspace, our homes, etc.
Well, for the most part, the building is what is required to have the grounding rod. So many times you'll see on buildings, they'll put on a lightning arrestor. So it is usually pointing up above the roof of the building because lightning tend to strike the highest points, right? And so once that building is equipped with a lightning arrestor, then it should be sufficient to protect the appliances and yourself from a lightning strike. But let's say you find yourself out in the open, a rain falling. If you have nowhere to go, one of the best things they say is to stay away from all trees and try not to be the tallest object where you are, so you stoop. Because the lightning will be attracted to the tallest things that are around. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question online. Mr. Harris is asking, how often do you recommend that safety drills be held in institutions per year?
At least once per quarter or per term. And at least one of those should be observed by the fire department. You don't want it to become monotonous and meaningless. So once per quarter, once per term should be good. So that's like at least 3 times per year, roughly.
Another question now is, how do you deal with situations where persons are buying gas for like weed whackers, etc.?
All right, so there are some bottles that are designed specifically for purchasing petrol, right? So many times in Jamaica, we find persons rush onto the pump with a water bottle. It is not required, not recommended rather. Because these bottles, sometimes they're not made of the right type of material and the petrol can melt them. Outside of that, if the petrol is stored in it, it can expand and still rupture. And that spillage can result in a fire. So you must use a recommended petrol bottles. Those are the red ones. You have some that are orange as well. But the material is specifically designed to house petrol. So no water bottle, no bleach bottle, none of those bottles are recommended. Especially if you're going to have it in there for a prolonged period.
Okay, and just a follow-up to that one. Can the static now from your body ignite that? Like
the one in the bottle?
Right.
Not readily, but nothing is impossible. Not readily. Because most times, one of the things is that the gas station, it has to lift the fuel from the underground tank through the pump, through the hose, onto the vehicle. The movement of the petrol builds the static. And that's why if you drive onto a pump and you see them offloading, don't buy gas. Even if they decide to be selling, because they're not supposed to be selling at that point in time. Once they're offloading, no petrol is to be served to customers. And once the tanker comes from Kingston and gets to the service station, it's supposed to sit for a while so the static can be settled. So it is highly dangerous if a tanker drives from town and because there was no gas, to start offloading same time and you're getting the gas in the vehicle same time. There's a high level of static. And so it has to sit for a while. And then still yet when they're offloading into the underground tank, no customer is to be served. Because that is when the static is at its highest. Understand? So with regards to it being in a bottle, it's a very less likely chance that it will ignite it. Not that it is impossible, just very less likely. Any other questions? Any other question? That's it? All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Online students and viewers, thank you for your questions as well. I do hope that the presentation was informative and I did not talk too much. And I do hope that as we go forward, we can be safe. We're referred to as fire prevention officers. And the reason for that is that every fire that you can prevent, you don't have to extinguish or fight it. So let us try and prevent the fires so we don't have to fight them. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bramwell. On behalf of the Board of Management staff of Knox Community College, we'd like to say a very, very big thank you. And it is, as you have heard the applause being done, we really appreciate you coming to give us a little bit more insight on how it is that we should prevent hazards inclusive of fires. Thank you very much again.
Like I said, if you have a comment for church, feel free to invite us on the next year.
Okay. Awesome. Come on, let's give him another big hand. Thoroughly deserving of it. Wow.
So we have some scanning. We're going into the digital age, so we have created some QR code scanner. So when you scan it, you'll get the pamphlets with the information that I shared with you, as well as the contact numbers for the various fire stations. So it's a crack and peel, so you can peel off the back of it and you can stick it at strategic locations on the premises or all right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful presentation. I trust that we have all been duly enlightened. As for me, sometimes the oddest things stick out. And I can't get past the mention of the partner draw and persons being in the and it brought me to mind of a funeral service that happened where there was one particular person who was inconsolable. And so persons were inquiring of the person, why is it that you're so broken up about this? Are you a family member of the deceased person? No. Are you a co-worker? No. Are you a close friend? No, not really. Then why are you so broken up about this? And the person said, well, the person that died is the banker, and it was my partner draw next. So that's why they were so broken up. That's why that stuck out in my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna give you 3 minutes just to stretch your legs, and then we're gonna go into the next presentation. And for those who need to speak to Sergeant Bramwell, you may do so during that time. So we resume in 3 minutes, and we'll be looking at earthquake safety next. Thank you so much. from your short break. And now we are going to immediately go into our second presentation of the day. And we invite our presenter at this time, Mr. Zaken Campbell. He's a lecturer in the Department of Agriculture and Environmental Studies, and he will be presenting on earthquake hazards and safety measures. Please welcome Mr. Campbell for his presentation.
Thank you, Seninas. Good morning, everyone. Still morning, still morning. All right, great. So I'll be looking at earthquakes, and we'll be exploring some of the mitigative measures of earthquake. So without any further ado, let's get to it. All right, so what we'll be looking at today, 4 simple objectives. You know, what's in a name? Earthquakes on a whole, some of the causes, some of the effects. I want to talk about the CDM cycle, and we'll also want to look at some of the stage or the phases of disaster. You know, earthquake being one of our more known disasters in the Caribbean. Second. Mic check? Okay. All right, cool, thank you. All right, so help me here, folks. Port Royal 1962, 1692. There's another one that happened then. Port Royal 1692 and Haiti 2010. What do they have in common? Earthquake, that's right, that's right. Most of us probably remember in 2010. Yes, what happened in Haiti, right? Serious devastation happened there, right? Tell me how you feel just looking at a few of these pictures. And by the way, all of this happened in Haiti. These are pictures from the earthquake in Haiti. Look at this one. What does it say to you? As a mommy and a child, they look hopeful and stressed out, don't it? Devastating, that's right. Right, look at this. As somebody's home just, you know, just slide to the side. And I mean, it costs a little bit of money to build a home nowadays, don't it? I don't know, maybe. Because, you know, if that were your home, how would you feel? You spend what, 15, 30, 40 million? And then within, about how long an earthquake lasts? Seconds, 5, 6 seconds. If you go for 7 seconds, God help you. You know, and it's creating all this damage. Look at this. And look in the background. That's all from above 5, 6 seconds, you know, 5, 6 seconds. Look at this. These are 2-story, 3-story, no matter, you know, that just got crumbled in Haiti. So the big question then is, why? How comes? How comes? That's a big question. How comes? When you build a building, you expect for it to stand up. That's all. So you put things like steel and, you know, sand and proper cement and, you know, whatever the ratio is, because you want for it to stand up. But why? Why in Haiti it happened this way? You know, they'll tell you that it's structural failure. So therefore, there must be a way for you to build Because they have buildings that whenever the earthquake happens, exactly, it sways, and it literally dances. In China, in Dubai, in Japan, where they have a whole heap of earthquake, like almost every single week in Japan, you have maybe 3-4 earthquakes happening. But you don't have this level of devastation. So the question is asked, why? How comes? Right? And that's what we want to explore today and see if we can help to shed some light on it, so that the way we go about doing things, we can help to secure ourselves, secure our family, secure our business. Right? So the question I want to ask you then, right? What's a disaster? And that's what we want to look at. And what's in a name? Why is it so important? I remember years ago when I was doing the concept, it sort of was a little bewildering when I heard what's in a name. I couldn't understand why. Right? So I said, I'm going to see if I can help you to get a little bewildered too. What's in a name? A disaster, it says, is a sudden catastrophic event that causes significant disruption. And we could literally stop there, but it does not fully tell what a disaster is, because it has to do something more than just cause disruption. All right? I'm going to skip that little section a little bit and goes to a hazard. Have you ever thought what the difference is between a hazard and a disaster? No? Hazard has the potential to, and disaster happen, and I would probably give you a 7 out of 10 for that one. Incomplete. Incomplete. Anybody else want to? But he's on the right path. Hazard has the potential to cause. I like you put it that way. So that's the truth of it, though. Hazard has the potential to cause problem, right? So if a hurricane, a quick thing, if a hurricane is coming and the hurricane is, say, out at sea, is it a disaster or a hazard? Huh? A disaster? Why? Okay. Has it caused any problem yet? So it's a hazard, right? So until it causes problems, right, then we cannot say it's a disaster. So that's why I like to put it. So the hazard has the potential to cause problem, but a disaster now, certain things, certain criteria have to be met. One, it causes disruption. And what it does as well, yep. So it causes disruption. It allows or causes persons not to be able to help themselves. Yes? So you are helpless. So it renders you helpless. And as a result of that, the technical term is it causes it to be overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, you have to seek what? Ask for help. So that's really what a disaster is. And it also causes loss of life. So there are certain things, certain criteria that has to be met before you can properly say that this thing is really a disaster. And this is important for us to understand. All right? Another quick scenario. Yes. Okay, another quick scenario. Let's say we have, since we're about to talk about earthquakes, an earthquake passes and everybody feels the tremor and everybody's shaking. And you hold on to your table or you run to your doorpost or something, and in the car, it gone. And you do what? Did you feel the earthquake? You call it, did you feel the earthquake? And everybody say, yes, 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 yes. Question, is that a hazard or a disaster? A hazard, that's right, you're getting it. It hasn't caused any damage. Or maybe if it caused damage, minor, maybe cracks in some places, but nothing that's going to cause significant economic damage or disruption. And we talk about disruption, we're talking about the road split. You know, the building dropped down, tree mash up, and the road split is a hazard, but is it causing disruption in a regular way of doing things? Is it causing, transportation to stop, so to speak? And, so that's what I'm saying. So there are certain things that need to happen for us to term the phenomenon a disaster or a hazard. So naturally, it will be a hazard, but then no, if it escalates by causing economic damage, great economic damage, loss of life, disruption, right? Then no, we can go ahead and call it a disaster, right? All right. So now that we get in the definitions, we're understanding some of the critical things. No, there are certain things as well that needs to happen. Again, in the scenario, Mr. Nunes and I, we are good friends, and we moved from the country and we got town go live, right? Mr. Nunes and I, we spot a nice little place right beside the riverbank. As we don't have no money, so, we have to find a way to make it in a town. Country come a town. All right. So we capture a piece of something, and we start to build something for the gully bank. You've heard of the concept, right? Gully bank. So we build some of the gully bank. Now, river the little gully right there, so we build it right on the gully bank. Now, Mr. Nunes realized, say, gully bank look weak, so him get some stone and him reinforce it, and him build him house, reinforced columns and that kind of thing, and him, and stills and him go up. Me, me can't afford all that, so I said, boy, I can't bother. So I just catch up the little shack right on the gully bank, my zinc fence and everything, and I'm gone. Rain come. And what happened now? After a couple of years, I build up a nice little, sizable house right on the gully bank. No reinforced wall, nothing at all. Mr. Nunes, who spent the time and reinforce the walls, reinforce some structure, put on maybe a slab roof or something, hurricane come. Who you think going to be in problem? Me or Mr. Nunes? I like you say it. Both in trouble. And you know what both in trouble is? Is that a risk or a vulnerability? That's what we're going to talk about next. Both in trouble. I like that. Is that a risk or is that vulnerability? Or is that vulnerable? Vulnerability, I call it. Both. All right, I can work with both. Explain somebody. Yes-ish. 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 Vulnerability. Are vulnerable. You are vulnerable. All right. That one a little challenging. Let me explain a different way. Let me put a different way, and then I'll allow Doctor to answer. Let's say, let me use Doc this time. I'm going to use Doc and let me use you. Huh? No. Remember him again? No. Miss Palmer. It's Palmer. So Doc and Miss Palmer. Doc and Miss Palmer, they are foreign-minded. All right? And they're in Ocho Rios. They live in Ocho Rios. And they think every day of going to US. Like most people on the coast, want to go better life. So Doc says, Miss Palmer, have a good idea. Make we go on the ship, and go. Thief up on the ship, store up on the ship and go. Because Royal Caribbean and all the work, they come right there and dock. I can just, like tourists and seriously. So Miss Palmer said, good idea. So what happens, Doc? Doc was able to pass her story, so now with her bag and stuff and go on the ship. Miss Palmer got left. So Miss Palmer said, no happen. Me nah make the train left me, no, so me still a go. By the hook or by the crook, I still going. So guess what she did? She get a little rowboat. And she jump in her rowboat and she said, by the hook or by the crook, I'm going. She follow back to her ship. So, Star Motor Sea, all right? Star Motor Sea. We're talking about risk and vulnerability, right? Star Motor Sea. Question is, who is at risk? Both at risk. Why? Storm is coming and they're both at sea. Question is, who's more vulnerable? Miss Palmer, why? Good. And it's easier for her to capsize, right? As opposed to the ship can handle it. So you're getting the concept of risk and vulnerability. There you go. But we are both at risk. We are both exposed to the same level of risk. So an earthquake coming, a hurricane coming, whatever the phenomenon is, whatever the hazard is, right, you are at risk. In other words, you don't have much control over the level of risk that might come your way. And some of these things are natural, right? And we're not going to get into natural and, unnatural disasters. Not going to get into that. But we are both at risk. So because we're at risk, naturally, what you're going to find is that what you have control over is your level of vulnerability, how vulnerable you are. So that's what you have control over. All right. So let's get back to the example I gave initially now with Mr. Nunes and myself at the riverbank. So what he did was what? Some reinforcement, beautiful. By reinforcing his wall, putting on slab roof and, using thicker concrete wall and that kind of thing, what he's doing, he's reducing his levels of vulnerability. Yes, man. Right? And that's the key to overcoming some of these hazards. So the term for it, really and truly, so we just talked about vulnerability and risk a while ago. The term for it now is actually resilience. When you're able to increase your resilience, you literally reduce your vulnerability. Yes? So the more resilient you want, and in the term that we use for resilience, real and true, is your, I like to say this, your bounce back ability. How quickly can you bounce back? How quick? So the essence is that with resilience, you're able to absorb the shock. Let me give an example to explain that. Let's say, do you remember when we had Chick-V, Zik-V happening in the area? Spoilers everywhere. Chick-V, Zik-V was rampant, right? I remember a case where in Maypen, the doctors and everybody were complaining, no more space, no more space. People were coming in too fast in the hospitals, too fast. So what they had to do was to send persons to Mandeville, right? Mandeville is same regional, just like Maypen, big enough, but Mandeville was better equipped to handle more persons. No, it's not that Mandeville was handling more people, but what happened is that Mandeville was able to make some on the outside to accommodate more persons on the outside, right? So as a result of that, they were able to absorb more persons. Quick question. Based on the definitions and what we're talking about so far, which of those two hospitals was facing a disaster? You said both. You said Mandeville. Mr. Nunes is saying Mandeville. Oh, Maypen. Okay. All right. Let me take. All right. Why? They had to get help. That's one. What else? Okay. So they were overwhelmed. They couldn't help themselves. They couldn't absorb all the all that was coming in. So because of that, They were overwhelmed. So when they hear the doctors and the nurses saying that they are tired and they this, and teachers too say they are tired, we too can actually experience disaster, Yeah. So when you're at that level, you're exhausted, you're stretched to your limit. And it happened all the time with the police. Yes, it happened with the doctors. So that's what happened in Maypen. They were stretched to the limit. They couldn't take anymore. They had to call for help, literally. And sometimes what they do is call in the persons who are reserve. Yes, man. They call the reserves to come help. They call the reserves to come help because the regular persons, or they ask the doctors to work overtime. And even when they work overtime, because they're humans too, they can only give so much a moment, right? Yeah. So when they, they're exhausted that way, guess what happened? They burn out. And if you can remember when our principal encouraged us, don't get burned out, find some time to exercise and this and that, and they had some wellness day. You remember in COVID time? Yeah. So persons can, right? Good. So that's what happened. So with resilience, you want to increase your level of resilience. And when you increase your level of resilience, that's what the concept now of mitigation comes in. Right? And there are a number of things you can do to increase your resilience, depending on the hazard that you're mitigating against. Right? Today, we'll be talking about earthquakes. So we'll be looking at some of the things, how we can actually mitigate against some of those, that hazard. So it does not become a disaster. Good. So you see, you're learning the terms now. So you've been educated. Don't use it on those online. Don't use the term hazard and disaster loosely. Because there are certain things that must happen before it becomes a disaster. All right, cool. So earthquake, and we all know what earthquake is. We all know. I watched a cartoon some time ago, and the little man called it earthshake. He said the earthshake. That's really what earthquake is, the movement of tectonic plates. Without getting deep into the geography of it, we have plates underneath the earth, literally. That's on magma. Literally. We are literally floating, guys. You don't feel it, but, we're literally floating. Think of an egg. If you think of the earth as an egg, right? Core mantle, the mantle is that yellow part in the egg, right? The core, rather, the mantle is at the white part, right? And it's normally bigger in the egg. And the crust that we are living on, we are lithosphere, is just that little shell. To think of an egg, perfect example of what the earth is, literally. Right? So the crust literally sits on the mantle, asthenosphere, we'll get into all that technical stuff. It sits on the mantle and it literally moves. Literally is able to move, right? Now, because of that ability of it to move, something called convection current, believe it or not, inside the earth is very hot. And sometimes people baffle and wonder how we know and how comes. Right? That's geology stuff. You want to know more, come to geology class and we can explain some more. But take it as I tell you, inside the earth is extremely hot. Right? And because of that, no, Doc will tell you that when things hot, what happened to it? Hot things, right? Yes, man. Yes, man. So heat rise and cold. So what happened, because the middle of the earth is so hot, the convection current constantly are moving. They come up to the surface, they cool, and they go back down. Right? Hot air rises, cold air sinks. So that creates a current, a little movement, conveyor belt. And as a result of that, the skin of the eggshell, right, is not one solid thing, Believe it or not, it's not one solid thing. They are plated like so. Yeah. But you don't see it, but they are plated. And there are a number of different plates on Earth. Number of different plates, a whole heap of them. We live on the Caribbean plate. And some plates, right, this is the beauty of it. Some plates, they move apart, become divergent plates, right? Some plates come together, become convergent plates. And some plates just move past each other, become transform plates, right? Now, because of that ability of the skin, the eggshell, to move, that's what literally causes earthquakes. So you find earthquake happening right at these plate boundaries. So whenever they move, right? That's friction, right? Yeah, it causes movement. That's why you feel the shake. Now, depending, you have some plates where obviously it's going to be more violent than others, right? Especially those which are either going underneath each other or they're coming apart. It takes more energy because what happened is the energy being released. And as it released, it's like a pop, literally, right? So that's what really caused the Earth's surface, the eggshell, to move, right? And we call those seismic wave, right? Now, and we just talked about these just a while ago, just by that example, right? So you know what caused earthquake to happen. Truth about it is that there are a number of things that can cause earthquake to happen. We tend to think of it as a natural occurrence. But do you know that man can actually cause earthquakes? There are activities that we can do to actually cause earthquake, right? When it happens from volcano, right? Again, so there are natural hazards and there are what we call anthropogenic or man-made hazards, right? Anthropogenic is a fancy word to say, man-made, right? So, but when we do things like mining, or we call them deep well plugging sometimes, right? Not big enough, sorry. Right. Deep well plugging. Sometimes what we do, we lubricate, we dump a lot of waste sometimes into sinkholes. And what we do sometimes, we lubricate those plates. And as a result, it causes it to slip, right? And when it slips, actually cause earthquake to happen. So we can actually cause earthquake to happen, right? So that's one way. There's two other ways, apart from naturally when the plates move, right? All right, so some of the effects, and we can all attest to what happens when the earth shakes. We can all attest to what happens when the earth shakes. Enough of us scream and we run like chicken without head. Yeah. You run away, right? Who knows what to do? Who knows what to do? I hear the magic things, drop cover and run on the table and escape the building if you can and that kind of thing. All right, we're going to talk about some of those things in a second. But let's talk about some of the effects. Quick time, right? Give me one effect of earthquake. Floods from earthquakes? All right, tell me how. It can happen, tell me how. Okay, landslides are given, yes, but tell me about the floods. This is one of the students who think outside of the box, and I love these type of students. How is it possible for floods? NASA. Huh? Depending on where the earthquake happens, yeah? No, man, it's something different to talk about. We can talk about that, something different to talk about. How can it cause flooding? We're not talking about that one. That's a different name, a special name for that one. Yes. 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 Yes, it is possible. But if it happens where the dams are, because like we don't have those big massive dams here in Jamaica, but in America, Canada, those places, when those dams break, yeah, man. And the rivers, but it don't cause no massive flooding like what we're talking about, man. Happens to, but the dam is really key there. You're talking about when it happens under sea. What's that magic word? Tsunami, yes, right? And well, I don't have it here as to how it's caused, but simply put, you have upliftment happen and you displace the water, right? Just think of the water coming down too fast. As it comes down too fast, the waves start to build up and it starts to move, with energy, right? Potential and kinetic energy starts to move the waves and it creates a massive wave over time, right? Over 100 and more feet sometimes, right? I think I have something on here that might show you the effects of a tsunami. It happens in Japan way too often because of earthquake. Millions die in Japan. I think the last one. when that one happened? Recently? What? That one missed me. You see what I'm talking about? Right? And think about it. People, millions of people live in Japan and they're not going nowhere. They literally just put their tail behind, and they go back and build back same place. It's because Japan is built near to one of the world's most active fault lines. You ever heard about the Ring of Fire? Ring of Fire, right? Yeah, I know problem. Geography class. I'm not going to get too deep in that. But because of the active fault line, we'll talk about those faults, right? Right? Because of the active fault line, it keeps happening. I'm telling you, people in Japan, they're so attuned to it that it happens and they automatically know what to do. From the baby in the belly, literally, to the adult, know what to do when it happens, because it happens so often. So because of that, they are leaders, literally, in earthquake technology. So they build a building literally go like that, the sway. Because imagine if they had to be building back those tall, 100 feet and 50 feet buildings every single time an earthquake happened. They'd be poor, and Japan is really rich, to be honest with you. So they build a building, the building sway, right? They build a building as well on stilts. You ever go on Westmoreland and see the buildings on stilts and posts in Westmoreland? Yeah. And St. Mary too? I've not seen the same, but yeah. So these are things that happen. So because of the tsunami that comes in, and by the way, tsunami means harbor wave. So those big waves that come in, right? Harbor wave, right? Japan, they built this extremely over 10 feet wall, try to protect the harbor back in, which year was it again? I remember it was 2010 too. But I can't remember. But and a tsunami happened and literally it just tear through the thing like, that's the power of nature, right? So tsunami. All right, so the ground shakes, surface, the road might split open, right? You might have landslides. And the worst thing that you and I fear is that your building might start to crack. When your house is on, most times even just soil, and that's what the Bible talks about. If you build a house and the solid rock, you're good. When the house is on soil, clay, that kind of thing, it's easy for it to shake and to twist and to buckle under the stress of the earthquake. So because of that, you find that there's uneven pressure, and as a result, your walls start to crack. Problem. Because the more that happens, the more you have to, pay money for repair. That happened to my aunt, and I tell myself because she spent millions repairing it, and after she repaired it, about 2 months afterwards, the same thing happened again. She just left it. So that happens. So your walls can crack. You and I could be in a building, and what happened? It can cause cave-in. Right? You could be on the stairs and the stairs fall down. You could be in the elevator. My goodness. So earthquake is no play, no toy. The funny thing is, you know when it's coming, don't it? You don't. That's the problem with the earthquake. Is one of those things that it doesn't give no warning. Mark you, in Japan, there are we call early system warnings, where they put beacons out in the sea, and what the beacon does is detect wave movements, so they'll know if there's a tsunami coming. They can warn the residents on the coast, to move. History shows that more than 80% of the world's population live along coast, and that's what happened in Japan. Most persons are right on the coast. So what happened is that when that happens, they give the early warning system, and you have about 5 or so minutes to pack up and move from the coast, because the tsunami comes and it's just washing away everything.
I heard that during the tsunami in Thailand that they were warning before.
Yep.
Because the animals were moving from dry land and they were going other places.
That's it. And a quick, as I talk about the animals, if you're at the beach and you see the water receding, meaning the water go back in the ocean or further back, don't get too curious and fall in the water. Please don't do it. All that's happening is that the wave is being pulled in because it is going taller out at sea to then come right back. That's what's happening. It happened in Indonesia, right? Happened in Indonesia, and millions died as a result of it. So a lot of persons died because of it. Because persons tourists, here, and they were, excited about they going, way out. There's a fish fluttering, and by the time the water was coming back, too late. Because when it's coming back with all type of debris. You can't run, literally cannot run. So you literally drown, and that's it for you, literally, right? So serious business, very, 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 very serious business. So we're getting there. We're getting there. We're understanding some of the effects, right? Here is one of the here's a tsunami in Japan I was telling you about. So if you can see right here, this is where the wall is. This is where the wall is. You see the impression of the wave coming over, right? And it literally just trucks over. It carries over ship, boat, everybody, and it came miles inland, right? And it just wash away things. You find bus, truck, and everything on top of roof, miles inland. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Yes. Guess what? Guess what happened? It's the better thing to do. You think of Flatbridge. You know where Flatbridge exists so long? Huh? Flatbridge has not had much modification since donkey years. Yeah, no barrier means there's less resistance for the water, because the water is a real cobra on that side. Is a real cobra on that side? Right? Vapor of the real cobra will come over, right? And it's just one thing, so it just wash over. And amen, hallelujah, that's no problem. But I bet you if there were barriers, railings, it would give the water more resistance. So it will tear the bridge apart. So the same thing that happened with Palisades. It's just the rocks and the road is elevated. So if there's a tsunami, it will literally flow over. The most that will happen, maybe the rocks might move. Say again? The angle of the... there's something under the Flatbridge too? Oh, I didn't even know that. I'm learning something. Okay. I didn't know that. So that's yeah, good. So yeah, so Palisades, the water flash over, you're good to go. Same with Flatbridge, less resistance, better for it, right? So this will happen. So when there are earthquakes under the sea, it creates tsunami, and this can be devastating. Now, guess the funny thing. An earthquake might happen in Indonesia, and they feel it all the way in Africa. Yep, that's what happened the last one. An earthquake might happen in Haiti, and we might experience a tsunami here in Jamaica. It happened. It happened. Right? So it's serious business. It's serious business. Right? All right. Here again, we talked about landslides, another effect of earthquake. Right? You have your sediments become loose. There's something we call liquefaction that happens too. Right? No, it's not there. I didn't put it there. But there's something called liquefaction that happened. And it's on the slide before. Okay, there we go. Right? And it started to make, you see what happened in, how many of us have gone to Giddy House in Port Royal? Yeah, good. That's what happening in Port Royal. The Giddy House. Liquefaction happened where the earth below it becomes soupy. Soupy. So that heavy building started to sink. Luckily, and you've heard about the man who got spit out, out at sea, and that kind of thing. It happens too, right? So yeah, so that's what happened with liquefaction. So earthquake is no toy, it's no joke thing, guys, no joke thing. So when you're building your homes, you want to think about reinforcing it. So don't go short on the steel. That's what happened in Haiti. They went short on the steel because Haiti is a poor country. They went short on the steel, they went short on the material. Sometimes they want to say, boy, I can't bother use two bags of sand, 2 bags of cement rather. We use one. I mean, nobody want to use the 5-inch or the 1/2-inch steel that they're recommending me to use. I'm going to use, 3/4 or, creates. Don't go short on the structural integrity of a building, because that's what's going to cause problem, right? You see these beams and so forth here, right? That's good, right? That will help this building to stand up, right? And when you're doing your construction stuff, the engineers will tell you exactly some of the things you need to do. But we're not here to talk about that part of it. We want to talk about what we can do here and how we can get ourselves here ready and prepared, and also for our homes. The CDM cycle, it's literally some policies, some laws, some guidelines rather, that we use in industry so that it can help to keep you and your loved ones safe. That's really what it is. So there are some phases that help you to prepare. It's like hurricane. Hurricane, we say, is cyclical, meaning it happens every season, every year, right? Cyclical, right? Same thing with the, so what the CDM cycle does, it helps you know to start to prepare, right? So there's literally no break in it, as you can see, just a one circle. Anybody have any idea where it starts? Mitigation, right? Since I mentioned mitigation, what is mitigation? Put plans in place. Stop it right there. So I like what you say right there. So after mitigation, then preparation, preparedness, we call it in class. What is preparedness or preparation based on the screen? Preparation or preparedness. So mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. You want to try again? See, you're getting some help. I like to say sun, supply your, neighbor. Yeah, support. I still want an explanation how it differs from mitigation. Oh, so they can hear the question. Okay, no problem. All right, so Doc, from preparedness, yes. That's fine. We're here to learn. That's fine. We're here to learn.
I'm thinking the preparation is the getting the things done. So knowing where the hazards are, knowing, so like gullies to be cleaned and all of that
Trees to be cut and that kind of thing.
So
knowing, stop. So what then is the mitigation then, if preparedness is getting the thing done?
You're mitigating against something. So it's more of a preventative action. That's what I'm thinking.
So, for example, the field is like plans, you do the first plan. Planning for the different environment. What you
can. She's so energetic and, into it. Use the mic so the online users can hear. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc.
Okay, so I'm thinking mitigation, meaning plans that are put in place so that just in case an earthquake should take place, then the effects will be lessened.
All right, stop then. So you're saying mitigations are?
Plans that are put in place
Stop.
to delay.
Stop. And Doc says preparedness is?
Putting the plans in effect, executing the
There you
plan.
go. There you go. So think of it this way. Think of mitigation as the brain work. Who do I need? Where is the problem? You're scouting things out. You're doing the brain work. You're doing the legwork, as we says. And then now, in preparedness, now, you do what? You execute those plans. So do you need to get the fireman to come and talk? So, okay, fireman need to come and talk on December 1. You write that down. You call. So you put it in, you get in things done. In the committee, no. But in mitigation, you're getting that organized, right? Do we need to do an inspection of the building to see that we have the proper systems in place? Right? Okay. When are we going to do that now? When are we going to do the January 1? You write that down. Do we need to have meeting with the board people? Do we need to have, do we need to clean the gullies? And when we need to clean the gullies? Probably January 5. No, that's all mitigation, You're putting your plans in place. Getting your team ready. In preparedness now, you start to execute. You follow me? Important, guys. Very, very important to understand the difference. So, with a CDM cycle and a CDM plan, you are systematically putting something in place. Because guess what happened? When you hear earthquake or feel earthquake or hear fire, you can't now figure, say, who going to do what, and where me go, and when me figure, and where me figure. The only way you can, and what to do, the only way you can know who, what, where, and when is if you did what? You did all those things prior. So guess what happens? What the CDM does, you realize response is in red. That's where the disaster or the hazard, I have to say it properly, that's where the hazard would take place. So whether it be earthquake, whether it be hurricane, whether it be fire, whether it be tsunami, whatever it is, that's how you're gonna know how to make a response, to respond. All right, that's why it's in red. Now, there are a number of things you're gonna do when you're responding. What do you think is high on the list of when you respond? Remember we talked about disaster and hazard earlier on? You're itching with the answer, Yes. What is the main activity that you're thinking about doing when you're responding? Safety is one, but higher on that list is what? Saving lives. Yes. So all your actions and activities that you're doing is all about saving lives. So when you respond, your first priority is making sure the people are all right, the students are okay. All right? That's what you're doing when you respond. But again, you cannot respond properly if you didn't prepare prior, right? And there are certain activities are involved. For example, in preparation, in preparedness, your fire drills. The fireman was here earlier on, right? Your earthquake drills, medical personnel, your first aid kits. And by the way, I'm using this as a segue to encourage as many of you to become first responders, right? Heart, the American Heart Association of Jamaica, they do training. Red Cross does training. I'm encouraging as many of you as possible, those here online, to become first responders. Let me tell you why. The more of us as lecturers, as students, as the case might be, admin, academic, doesn't matter, know what to do in the event of an emergency, the more person you have to save people. That's all? Yeah. So, so do the training. And I don't know if, I know we did that training, when was the game, last year sometime? Yeah. So that's something, and a number of persons were there, and that's good. I would love for more persons to, you have a card. I have my e-card. Yeah, I have my e-card. And when you get the training, it's good for 2 years before you need to do again. 2 years, yes, before you need to do again, right? So that's essential. That's one way of being able to respond, because you have more first aid personnel on the floor. So just imagine, hospitals department have 4 first responders. Communication department have 5 or 6 responders. In an admin have 7 responders. You follow what I'm saying? In an NV have 4 or 5 responders. So it simply means that because again, we are on different campuses, the more persons who are trained, the more able you will be to respond if there's an emergency. All right. Next one. And then now, in recovery, what are you trying to do in recovery now? Get back to normal. You're cheating, you're sitting in a lecture sometimes. In recovery, you're trying to get back to normal. That's literally what you're trying to do. So, you know, you're saving as much as you can in a response, but in recovery, you're trying to clean up. You know, if you need the sniffer dogs to come in and to help you clear whoever can clear from the rubble, that kind of thing, you need the big trucks to come in, right? Or the big cranes to come in, right? I need people to do rescue. You need people with a big sort of when a hurricane come and they cut down the trees, zoom, 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 and move it out of the way. But again, all of these things need to be planned, pre-planned, right? I'm cherry picking through it, but it's a lot more detailed than that, just so you have the basic understanding of what the CDM cycle is about. Right? I'm cherry picking through. All right, so we talked about this. Good. So let me jump to here now. So once you get the CDM cycle under your belt, and that's good, let's now talk about some of the practical things you can do now in the event that we have an earthquake. And this is not just for work, but I did it in such a way that it can also be twin for whom. Because believe it or not, the best first responder is me at my yard. The best first responder is you at your yard. Right? Don't expect the fire station to come help you before you can help yourself at your yard. So the more prepared you can be, remember we talked about resilience earlier on, right? You don't want to be vulnerable. You want to reduce your vulnerability and increase your level of resilience. Remember your bounce back ability, right? Resilience is speaking about how well you're able to absorb the shock, right? Look at Mandeville, if I can remember. Mandeville was able to absorb all those persons who came in and they did not have to send people away. They were able to absorb the shock, so they were not overrun at the time, right? So before an earthquake, and we'll be looking in terms of the different stages, before, during, and after. Before, during, and after an earthquake. So before an earthquake, and if you can think back not to what we talked about the CDM cycle just now, you realize that there are certain things based on the CDM cycle that we just talked about. So the before, the hazard, before the disaster, where in the CDM will those things fall? Mitigation and preparedness. Mitigation. So the before is where? Beautiful. Yes. So the before aspect of the disaster or the hazard is in both mitigation and preparedness. That's it. I like what you're thinking. You're getting it. All right. So this is so important. Develop an emergency plan. I don't know if we have. All right, that's right. I don't know if we have one that's well known to all of us here. And if we don't, I encourage the powers that be to make that be known. You know why? Because when you're home or when you hear fire, I always say earthquake, think quick. Where is the nearest assembly point? The car park. What's the quickest route to get there? With all the improvements. Okay, I'm not gonna say too much, but I encourage you. Right, I had a little activity, but I'm being told I have 10 minutes, so I can't do the activity anymore. You need to, in your departments, a lot of HODs are here, I encourage you, in the department, sit with the people and create that little plan. I had a sample, but I don't have the time to go through the sample anymore. But you need to create an emergency plan. That's a problem. That's a problem. You need to know in the event that something happens, you know, It's like I was talking with Susan earlier on, and Susan said, Lord have mercy, the man there talk about fire, right? When fire come, we come like chicken with our head just gone. And I was saying to her, you need to know that even though you're gonna behave like chicken with our head, the response should be automatic. It's like in the nights, if there's no light and I need to go, I know exactly where to go to find my car key in the dark. I know exactly where to go and find certain things in the dark. It has to be that automatic with you, right? And I'm encouraging you, not just for school, but for home. Get the children, the baby them to involve in creating a plan. If we get separated, Johnny, where we going to meet? Over Auntie Susie. Auntie Susie probably live in a different community. Yeah? Right? If we get separated and you don't have no phone, right? How again? You know my number? From my girls were 2 and 3, we start teaching them our telephone number. What my name? Then know my name, you can call me no daddy. If anything, you get the children involved in the emergency plan. There are a number of things that goes into the emergency plan. For example, who's responsible for what? Nobody say, oh, me think. No. Right? Who's responsible for what? We're going to meet up. And I'm an advocate for copying documents and storing them in the clouds. I have most of my documents in multiple locations. I have my mother-in-law have, my auntie have, my mother have, and all these people live in different locations. With a bad luck kid, if something should happen, and all of them just immediately go, something go wrong. So make copies of your document, certified copies of your document. All right, that's part of the emergency plan. So that should something go wrong, you can retrieve quickly. All right? Have them in the clouds. Store stuff in the clouds. Secure in the clouds, right? That's a part of the emergency plan. The emergency plan is also talking about you should have water supply per person, 1 gallon per person per day. And it's the part of the emergency plan speaks about having at least 3 days water supply stored up, just in case. So that's 1 gallon per person per day. So you do the math. If it's 2 of you, 3 of you, 4 of you, 5 of you, 10 of you in your home, do the math. You should have a food supply, canned stuff, have a little food kit, and every 3 months, you rotate those items. As things will go bad. If nothing happen this month, okay, after 3 months, you take them out, you use them, and you restock it. Right? You restock your food supply. Right? You also want to make sure you change the water as well. Don't just keep the water, change the water too. Right? So those are little things you can do with the emergency plan. Have an idea too at your home, because I focus on our assembly point at your home. Have it in your department too. Make sure your members know, the students know. I don't know, maybe, in this year or whenever we go back face to face, that's something that we probably need to get, going, where persons know our exit points properly, how to get to the safe route, how to get to the assembly point, right? And it's essential to always know who's in your care as teachers, so you can account for persons properly, right? So that's the emergency plan. It's much more detailed than that, but I'm trying to work with Mr. Bonnerstein. All right. So we talk about building your emergency kit, where you put the essentials. Don't forget the children in terms of they get bored easily. So don't forget them in terms of having board games, toys, blankets, that kind of thing, to keep them occupied in the event that you have to make a quick run. Right? One thing that I practice at home, my documents, my important documents are in one folder. Push come to shove, and in plastic to a Ziploc. If push come to shove, I just put my hand in my drawer and I get them, I'm out the door. Right? In the US and other places where fire is a real threat, we don't have fire threat here. Fire is a real threat. When they hear the fire siren happening, they have under 5 minutes to grab and literally evacuate. Right? We don't have that issue here. But the thing about with earthquake that we might have here now, we still need to know our route that we can get to safety quickly, right? Secure heavy items. So you want to anchor things down in your home. Sometimes we build shelves in the wardrobe or the closet, shelves all over the place, and there are heavy stuff on top of there. You want to secure those things in the event of well, in general, because the truth of the matter, you don't know when an earthquake might strike, right? So secure heavy items. We talk about identifying the safe spaces. Yes, I need to know how to get there, right? Know your home, be familiar with the layout of your home, be familiar with the layout of your classroom, be familiar with the layout of your workspace, right? Do I go that way to get safety? And then when you go to you go there, you realize you're stuck, the gate lock, as opposed to running this way or going this way, right? So know the layout. All right. We talk about securing personal belongings, right? Very, very important. Secure personal belongings, right? Practice drills, right? This is something that I really and truly hope when you're back face to face that can be done. Students and staff practicing those drills, because in Japan, that's what happens, In Japan, persons automatically know what to do. They go to the exit. They know how to go behind, the walls. They know to go under the chair. They need to go to the doorway. They need to move away from the glass windows, right? They know these things, right? Right, so we talked about emergency contacts. Know your emergency contacts, and if you can memorize them, all the better. So in the event that earthquake happens and all the towers are down, you can't get through to your husband or your wife or the children. They know, okay, fine. If we are separated, we are gonna meet by Auntie Sue. We are gonna meet by Uncle Paul. We are gonna meet by Brother Elam, Brother Nunes. Make these arrangements with your family members, and it's good to make them as well, with your staff members as well. Right? Be aware of the location nearest for shelter. Well, that works well for hurricane. Right? Now, during the earthquake, you don't want to be running like chicken without head. You don't want to be doing that. Believe you me, it's a scary thing, but you want to stay as calm and think. So you want your response to be automatic. And your response can only be automatic if you are practicing every now and then. Because if you don't know what to do, you're just not going to know what to do when it occurs. Right? Anybody has ever been in a skid? Or you're driving and your car slide? Huh? And you don't know what to do? How do you know what to do? Well, it's easier said than done. Steer the direction, this kid is sliding this way. May I tell you, because all you're trying to do is to go that way. But you can only do what you've practiced and you've. So, duck cover and hold. Duck cover and hold, right? Duck cover and hold. Duck cover and hold. You want to duck cover and hold the chair foot and you go under. Hold the thing foot and you go under. Right? So that when you hold it, it don't just vibrate and can get over your head and gone away and you don't have no protection. Right? Duck cover and and hold on to whatever you hold on to. Hold, yes. You need to hold. So if you're under here, you hold. You hold up there. See him holding it there? See him holding the foot of the chair? Because if you don't, remember, this place is shaking, so it's possible for it to come over. Yes, to move. So you hold it over your head. Right? Yeah, duck cover and hold. Right? We talk about some of the safe space within the building. Know your building as well. If it is that, like here, right, and you can't get to the doorway, one of the safest thing to do is actually to go against the wall. Go against the wall, literally. Not the window, It might shatter and cause problem, or go against the wall. Right? The best I can explain is, it hasn't ever been raining. I go against the wall, I realize it don't get wet so easily. It's something like that. It's more difficult for the thing to fall. So go against the wall just like that. You want to stay as low as possible. Right? Take over under sturdy pieces of furniture, such as a table, your desk, protect yourself. Hold on to the furniture for shelter, brace yourself. And that earthquake is going to last a few seconds, but it could be a dreadful few seconds. Right? When we talk about, when I see some of those buildings show earlier, pancaking, the pancake, it's because of structural integrity. The structural integrity of the building failed. You and I can't do much about that, to be honest with you. So if the building, so that's part of resilience. If you build the building weak and you have a 5, 6, or 7, and you're going to be in problem. That's the honest truth. You're going to be in problem. But apart from that, if the building is strong enough, you want to go again, because what you're trying to avoid, are falling debris. Yes, hitting your head. That's the thing, Once you get a brain leak, that's it. That's it. You're trying to avoid that. All right. Good. So, if you're indoors, all right, if you're indoors, stay inside. Don't rush to go outside too quickly. If you can, get to your door, get underneath, because in rushing sometimes you might get in problem. Leave it like that. Do not run outside during the shade, as you may be injured by falling debris. Right? Avoid doorways. So contrary to what we've been told. As I know, safer than other parts of the building and may lead to injuries. Yep. Stay away from windows, as I was saying earlier on. Right? Stay away from windows. Move to the interior walls, away from potential falling hazards. Yeah. All right. If you're outside, move to an open area away from the building, street lights, utility wires, and trees. Right? That's why it's important not to know where your assembly points are. If you're driving, right, pull over to a safe location away from the overpass, the bridges. You don't want to stop on the bridges. Right? Stay inside the vehicle until the shaking stops if you're driving. Right? Protect your head and neck. So if you're outside, you definitely want to, and stay low. If you cannot find cover, protect your head and neck with your arms and crouch in an inside corner of the building. So the wall, the corner, those are good places to be in the event that there are no covering in the building, right? There are no chairs, desks to run under, right? Go in the corners, go against the wall, right? So that's what's happening during the earthquake. Right? And then now, there are always aftershocks, tremors. So the main thing happened for 4, 5, 6 seconds, but don't think it's over. Prepare for the aftershocks. They're always going to be, we call S waves. They're going to be aftershocks. So that's going to happen. So don't be too happy to want to rush out just yet, to wait a couple seconds before you rush out, right? And still you want to, again, practice your duck, cover, and hold for the aftershock. And then listen for your announcements, because if you're done properly, it means that, you'll have persons who might give you announcements, person may be telling you what to do. So listen for your announcements. We might have persons announcing stuff over the PA system. Listen for that, right? And then you follow any evacuation order to go to your safe locations. Right? Don't try to use the elevators if you have any where you are. They may be compromised. Right? The stairs are still best if you can use it. If you're trapped, try to attract attention, banging, tapping, yelling, whistling. The person might come and, assist you. If you're trapped in an area, elevator or maybe the door, because the door probably could, squeeze away, you can't come out, you can't push out. You might need to attract attention so that person can hear that you're there, so you can get assistance. All right. All right. So I can't do this one for very long, but I want to think about it quick time. Those at home and here, think about where your escape routes are. Where are your I was having some problem typing, right? Think about where your assembly points are. You need to know those things naturally. You close your eyes, right? We're in the envy department, where's the nearest one? You're in the hospital department, where's the nearest one? You're in the business department, where's the nearest one? Right? So, and how do I get there quickly in the event that something happens? God forbid that you have to jump. I remember seeing those pictures from the World Trade Center. Yes, man. I was waiting to come to school in the morning and I saw people literally jumping. Yes. And I was like, boy, so God forbid that you need to jump. All right. So after the earthquake, so during the earthquake was the response. I hope you're taking note. During the earthquake was the response, right, with the CDM cycle. Now here right, is after the recovery section. So after the earthquake, it's important to prioritize, there you go, right, safety, very important. Check for any, electric, that might cause problem, sharp edge there, sharp edge here, that kind of thing. Check for, maybe you need to come with what other building you are. Maybe the building is no longer steep as how it was before. You want to walk cautiously. So they are coming out. So you want to check for things so you can come out. Right. So check for injuries. Check for injuries. Right. You are whoever's around you. Check for injuries. Are you all right? You get hit here, you get hit there. Are you bleeding? That kind of thing. Check for injuries. Right. Be cautious of the aftershocks because I was saying to you just now, the building may not be as stable as before. Right? The ground may not be as stable as before. So you want to walk, tread lightly, tread cautiously, right? So anything can happen. Check for hazards. Check for hazards. I was talking about sharp edges, electric wires might fall down, the beams may be compromised, right? So again, you want to hold, and take your time and come out. Anything can happen. Now, one of the things is that you want to, after something happens within a building, technically there should be somebody who actually goes back in and check the structural integrity of those buildings before you actually re-enter. Right? An inspection should happen technically. Right? So once you rush out because of whatever reason, right, an inspection should happen before you re-enter for work. That's what should happen in practice. But in actuality, what happens is something different, I think. Listen for emergency information, right? And guess what happened? In your emergency kit talked about earlier on, you want to make sure that you have battery-powered radio or solar radios are the thing that's doing it now, right? Have those kind of things so you can have a medication. I didn't talk about medication, but then again, I was saying because of the time limit, I won't get to go through making the plan. But making a plan, I have a sample I can share with a quick time though. So listen for emergency information, right? Evacuate and assess the damage, right? After your earthquake, carefully assess the damage to your immediate surrounding, right? Tread cautiously, look, you don't know, right? You don't know if your ground is shaking anything. Evacuate if necessary, within your home, you're in the staff room, you're in class, you don't know, just to be on the safe side, evacuate just to be on the safe side. You don't know because the aftershock could then, and sometimes the aftershock is that less intense, sometimes the aftershock is even more intense than the first one. So you want to be careful, right? Evacuate if necessary. Right? We talked about securing your personal belongings. Right? We talked about knowing and where to go, follow evacuation order in case person with the PT maybe the PA system may be talking, right? Or if it's a situation where a person talking with the radar kind of thing, you want to follow those orders so you can know where and how to go and how to come out. But I'm a stickler for securing those personal belongings, guys. Secure those personal belongings. So communicate with family. Yes, very important. Very important. Johnny, you're in Spalding, some in Porus, mommy in Christiana, somebody in Kingston, you don't know if they're affected up there, right? If you can call, you call. You try and communicate with them, right? Stay informed, right? You want to reestablish communication to know that they're okay, at least, get the news surprise. By surprise, all right? Anna, thank you. Any questions? No? Clear? All right. If I could just take a quick minute and share with you a sample of do I have it here? What I think it might look like. A disaster plan, emergency plan. And my okay. So there are many of these that are actually online, and there are templates that we can actually use. We can tweak for your home, right? Emergency plan. We can look up emergency plan for home, for school, for your office, and they can actually tweak it. And between you can do it at home with your family. You can do it at work with your colleagues, right? So you know exactly how to do and what to do. And it talks about who will do what. It's like you're making a kind of list of your evacuation. Hey, come on, it's taking so long. Right, facility your site map. Talk about that. It talks about first things first, preparing your facility for that. Right, each staff member needs that it tells you. Right, employee responsibility. There are a lot of them that are online, and I encourage you to actually, go on and download for your family. In emergency doc cover hold, right? And it tells you who will be responsible for getting what, for doing what, for turning off what, right? In the event, who's responsible for checking what, emergency responsible for our staff. So before the event, who will do what, right? So guys, I'm encouraging you to get your emergency plan done, even if there's not one that is general for staff on a whole. But we can do this at home. We can do this in our offices with our colleagues. So, because my safety is my first responsibility, not yours, not the fireman, not anybody else's, is mine. So, best thing to do, secure yourself by knowing what to do, right? And one of my principals would say, "Our words to the word is sufficient." All right, thank you so much. All right, thank you for listening.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to echo the sentiments of Mr. Campbell's last statement. I know you have been very patient. You have sat, you have listened, you have absorbed. So we want to say thank you so much for your attentiveness and for your participation. Could you just give Mr. Campbell another round of applause? And while we are doing so, we want to say thank you to all those who have joined us online for today's proceedings. And it is at this time that we also bid you adieu farewell for those who have joined us online. For those in the immediate company, we shall speak a little bit more in a few minutes. But ladies and gentlemen, again, we thank you from the depths of our heart for your attentiveness, your patience, and all that you have supplied. Thank you.
You're welcome.